Good morning. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Oh, I don't know what the time zone is where you are, but it's morning here in the UK. This is lesson 8. I'm Martin. We're looking at Open Insight 10. Today I want to talk a little bit about backing up of your system. We've started to create some data tables, we started to put some things together, and we really ought to have a backup available to us. So I want to talk about backup, and I want to talk about some licensing implications because this is quite important. So this video is going to be twofold. A little bit of theory, then we'll drop into the app backup routine in Open Insight and look and see how that works. So there's primarily two types of license, if you will, in Open Insight. One is the runtime for your deployed systems, and the other is your development environment. Looking at the runtime initially, there are a number of options available to you with regards to backups, failover, and the like. So first up, we've got the Universal Driver 5.1, which is fully volume snapshot compliant. So you can use that technology to get copies of your system, your data, whatever, and you can use that for failover. Keeping it within Open Insight itself, or the Open Insight environment, we've also got the Universal Driver Heavy for version 9 and prior, and that gives you full mirroring. The Universal Driver basically has a copy of the system on two servers, a primary and secondary. The users interact with the primary and they write their data to the primary. The primary will then replay those transactions across to the secondary server, so you've got a real mirror between the two, and that pretty much happens in real time. And then when it comes to failover and backup, if your primary server was to go down for some reason, let's say you get a catastrophic hardware failure, you get all of the users to point to the secondary. They continue to use the system while you fix the primary. When it comes back up, you just switch everything in, sync it all, and you're all hunky-dory. With regards to backing up, it gets really nice, because if you're running in a 24/7 environment, you don't want to have open file backups that are moving, so you can put the primary into journaling mode, and you do your backup against the mirrored server, the secondary server, which gives you a real point in time backup. When that's finished, you take it out of journaling mode. Open Insight will catch up with the transactions between the two servers, and theoretically in the morning you're all back and ready to run. With regards to other options, many different options that are available to you for that, normal proprietary backup solutions. Just make sure that you are backing up primarily the data, because it tends to be the data that you're backing up rather than the whole system. Make sure you're backing that data up onto a designated backup system, so normally a data server or a specific data folder. Now, if you'll remember, in my copy of Open Insight, where we've got RevSoft here and mp_clinic, under there I've got a folder called data, and in there I'm keeping all of my data files. So this would be the folder. It resides on my machine, but that could be residing on any machine, could be data server. That's the one that you'll be backing up rather than the whole system, and that keeps your backups smaller, more concise than if you're backing up the entire system. Then we get on to the development system. Now, the development system, we're not so interested in in backing up the data file. We're now interested in backing up the whole of the system, the whole of our RevSoft folder. And there's a number of ways that you can do this. Again, you can do an OS copy, and that tends to be what I do. I just take a straightforward copy of the RevSoft folder. In fact, what I do on my machine is I send it to a zip file. So you can see here, at some point I've been working and I've backed up this copy. It's gone bad, so I've marked it as bad. And looks like prior to that I had a good backup. So this would be the backup that I've gone back to. So I would then unzip that and start working on it to take me back a few days. Normally I would do the backups more quickly than that. And I do tend to do my backups very, very frequently, because I am a code jockey and a lot of it is trial and error, and more often than not it's error, and I get myself in such a mess that I actually want to back out of my copy of Open Insight and get me back to where I was an hour or 2 hours ago. So this system works very well for me. But there is an even better system that we're going to have a look at in a moment, which is the app backup facility within Open Insight itself. And of course, as I said, we support all of the other backup options. Now, the reason why I'm just doing a quick PowerPoint is I really want to get into licensing. So with these options of copying stuff around, you've got to think about the licensing considerations. So when we start talking about deployed systems and development systems, you can use a network user license. This is the one we're looking at here. However, that is strictly one instance per license. There's no ability to take multiple copies in the way that I'm doing here. In particular, if these weren't zipped, if these were just straight copies, that would be a direct license breach, and it would be a potential issue. And when I say a potential issue, it's an issue that has come up in the past. Real case. Some years ago, quite a long time ago, I took a call from one of our VARs that one of their end users was getting inconsistent results with their data. Different people will be seeing different data sets, and reports were being consistent, and statistics were being consistent, and nobody could make any sense of it. It really didn't make any sense whatsoever. So we ended up going down there. I went down with one of the technical guys, and literally within minutes, the technical guy turned around to me and said, "Mike, come and have a look at this." And we had the main RevSoft folder, and then on that same server available to all the users, we had multiple copies of that RevSoft folder. They were all backups, legitimately done for legitimate reasons, no doubt, but for reasons I know not, some of the users were looking at the main RevSoft folder, some of the users were looking at the backup, and some of the users were looking at a different backup, and they were all reading and writing data to these different systems. So the company had their corporate data spread over these three systems in an unknown, haphazard manner, and it took us an age to get things back together. It was a manual process, and basically we had to compare all the systems and move all the data around. I guess it could have probably been done in code, but it was very, very difficult, and we had to try and get some sensibility with the dates and when things happened, and we ended up going back to a very old backup, and yeah, it was very, very, very expensive. So not only is it a license breach to have multiple copies, it's also quite dangerous. So whatever you decide to do with regards to, if you're doing a system backup, make sure that it's going onto a separate backup drive or somewhere where the users can't get at it, and preferably in zip, locked files like a zip file or something like that. It's just so much safer. So network user license, primarily strictly one instance per license. Keep that in the back of your mind. Open Insight Works. Now these are licenses for our professional developers, and this is by far the highly recommended option. Now I hate the term, but I'm going to use it. You can consider network user licenses as important users. Our work subscribers you can refer to as VIPs, very important people. Now they're very important people to us because these are the guys that are building the systems, and they have a different set of requirements to users. Now if you are developing on a network user license, you're still going to have those same requirements, but you don't have the flexibility of Works. And what I mean by that is, within the network user license, it's strictly one license per user. In Works, when you get a Works license, you get a multi-user license. It's only for your use, and it's registered to an individual. But you normally get, like, 3 users in a license, which enables you to run the development environment, do some testing, run some services, all that sort of stuff. So there's more flexibility built into your license already. And although the license, as with all software licenses, says one instance in one place, we do tend to be a lot more flexible with our work subscribers, and we do allow them to have an instance of OpenInsight on their work machine, on their home machine, on a laptop when they're going remote to customer sites, and these can be 3 individual instances of OpenInsight. Strictly speaking, a license breach, but within the spirit of the license, it's something that we allow. Now, the other thing as well is the multi-version support. On this screen here, you can see that I've got many copies of OpenInsight installed. Now, the network user license is a D serialized license, and a works license is a W serial number, and these are all W serialized, so I'm legal to do what I'm doing here. I've got multiple copies of the system, and if we just look at RevSoft, which is the main folder for my contact manager at Revelation, you'll see that I've got my main, let's just go back, sorry, didn't mean to do that. I'm used to doing live demos, not PowerPoints. Click the screen. You'll see here that I've got the RevSoft folder, so that's my main working folder, and that's in version 10. But I also need to maintain an OpenInsight 9.4 for support purposes and a few other reasons. So I've got 2 instances of my system readily available to me. And then I've got some backups down the bottom here, and you can see that I've got one on the 30th of the 4th, and then after that I've got a Delta 4 and a Delta 5 on the 22nd. And you can see, because I've been doing these videos, I haven't done a lot of work on it recently. But within OpenInsight Works, it enables you to do that, so long as these remain under your control as the work subscriber, and you're not sharing them with lots of other people. So there are licensing considerations to think about when we're talking about backups, and just be careful. Right, so let's come out of the PowerPoint, and we will launch our copy of OpenInsight, and I'm going to show you a brilliant way of backing up your system whilst you're working. So in our clinic application, I've just created a new test form, and we'll save that to our system. And then we're going to go ahead now, and we're happy with that form, but we're going to go and do some other stuff. Maybe I'm going to cut some code, or maybe I'm just going to do some bits and pieces. So what we'll do is we'll go into App Backup, so Tools and App Backup. And in here, we've got an option to run a backup or run a restore. So though it's called Application Backup Plus, we refer to it as just App Backup. You can do it about backup and a restore. You can, if you want to, copy the data tables, but normally your data tables will be backed up on your data server. So I'm just going to leave those blank for the moment. And then we need to decide a location. Now, my location on my machine, I've got a C drive, which is my main drive where OpenInsight is installed. So let's say my application server. I've got a recovery drive that I can't touch. And then I've got my data drive. So this is an encrypted drive where I keep all of my data. So under here, I've got my copy of OpenInsight, and in here I've got a folder called Tutorial Backups, and then in here I've got a folder where I'm keeping all of my backup files. So what we'll do is we'll go New Folder, and we'll call this 20180607A. And we'll select that folder, and then we'll click OK. OpenInsight prompts us that the backup files do not exist at that location. Do we want to create them? Yes, we do. So if we go yes, you'll see that very quickly OpenInsight went through and backed up our application, and we get the complete notification here. So if we then look at that folder on the drive, so if I OpenInsight, Tutorial Backups, and under the version A, we've now got our application backed up. So this isn't the whole of OpenInsight. We've literally just backed up our application files onto our machine. Right, so we're working away, something goes wrong and we get in a little bit of a mess. So we go File and Delete. Yeah, we want to delete. Fiddlesticks. I've deleted the wrong form. I didn't mean to do that. Now we need our backup. Tools, App Backup, Restore, Location. And actually, just before we do that, I'm going to prove to you. If I do open form, MP test 2's gone. Okay, so no smoke and mirrors. Tools, App Backup, Restore, Location. Drill down to where our system is installed. So version A. OK that. Double check the path. Click OK. Bang, really quickly. Very, very small system, so it is very quick, but it's restored. And now if we go File, Open, Form, we're back to our MP test 2, so we're back to where we were. So an OS system backup is going to back up the whole of OpenInsight, everything, and it takes a few minutes. On my machine's quite quick. It normally takes about 4 or 5 minutes to back up. With the app backup, super fast. It doesn't interrupt your workflow. It's very quick to back up, it's very quick to restore. And this is now becoming, in OpenInsight 10 particularly, my go-to for backing up my systems as I'm working. And I'm actually pretty good now. I'm backing up more regularly, definitely every hour, more than likely every half hour I'm running a backup. And then at the end of the day, when I'm closing down my system, I'll clear out a number of the backups just to leave me with the last 2 or 3. And obviously with this system, there is no question about licensing. The fact that you've got all of those different app backups sitting in your tutorial backup file, there's no license files in there. There's no copy of OpenInsight. So there is absolutely no question of a license breach and absolutely no question of somebody picking up the system and reading and writing the wrong one. So a great little tool. Highly recommend that you use it. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next video. Take care. Bye bye.